Hey guys, Katie Taylor here at scrappinkaty.com, where I show you how to preserve your family's memories through the art of scrapbooking. In today's video, I will be scrap lifting Janet Fritz as part of the Stretch the Sketch 5-year anniversary. I'll also be showing you how to make your own wood grain embellishment. So let's take a look. To celebrate our, anniversary of Stretch the Sketch, we are copying or scrap lifting is what they call it in the biz. We are scrap lifting one of Janet's layouts and then making it a different size, which is what Stretch the Sketch is all about. So here is the layout that I've decided to scrap lift. Her version is a 9 by 12, and of course I'm going to make it a 12 by 12, which is a different size. And then I'm also using the Change of Scenery workshop kit that is available right now on my website. Here is the stamp set that it comes with. And then you can see here, I have a few die cuts. One of the stipulations of this collab is to also use wood grain. So I'm definitely going to try to use this. And then I'm also going to show you how to make your own kind of little wood discs as well. So I have the sticker sheet here. You can see just love, love, love all the outdoor. Even though we are not and do not profess to be an outdoor family, I do have some perfect photos that are going to go with this. And then let's just take a quick look at the paper collection. So we have these two patterns. We have these patterns, and what I'm showing you here is actually, you get 2 sheets of paper, but each side is different. So we've got the pine and then kind of a tweed kind of canvas look. And then of course these gorgeous clouds, and then that gorgeous scenery. And then I just have some cardstock colors that came with the workshop kit that I'll be using. So I'm going to clear my desk and then we can get started. I'm going to go ahead and pre-cut everything. So this video will not take long for you to watch, but like I said, watch out for that handmade wood that I'm going to show you here in just a second. We are going to do a little treatment on my base page. So I am taking one of the images from the Dream Maker stamp set and some Glacier ink, and I am just going to attempt to make a cloud background. I tried second generation, but it didn't work. So I'm going full strength and just kind of stacking this little. It's meant to be kind of a background stamp for paint or watercolor, but I really think it looks like clouds, and it's going to go really good with that piece that I'm going to put over on the right. Now that right piece of pattern paper with the clouds and the mountains and the trees has just a slight gray tint to it, so I'm just adding some sponging around the top and that left side of this. And then I'm going to do something totally different to the bottom right. I'm going to pull out the stencils that come with the Dream Maker. There are 4. It comes in a 12 by 12 sheet, but I like to cut them apart. And you can see here it's got these leaves. So I've pulled out my Seabrook ink and I'm just securing that stencil to my glass board with some removable labeling tape. And I am just going to sponge or ink over these leaves. You can see them kind of pop. And before I remove this stencil, I am going to add another stencil on top and let that bottom stencil kind of be a mask. So this one is another little background stencil, but it kind of is going to make it look, or I think, or what I'm wanting it to do, is make it look like little veins. So I'm using a darker green. This is the pine, and you can see that pattern just pop on those leaves. And because I have that bottom stencil still in place, that pattern is only getting on the leaves. You can see that there. And then I'm going to just repeat one leaf up kind of up at the top, just to kind of bring those leaves up into the clouds, I guess you would say. So for that pattern paper that's going to go on the right, I decided to paper tear. Now I'm going to do a lot of paper tearing. I think it just kind of adds that organic soft look. And then I am using my edge distresser for this pattern. Now this is toffee and this is that tweed or kind of canvas look. Now Janet on the original layout had it look like actual canvas on there, but I am going to use this one, and I love that I tore that. That's going to allow me to just let that pine kind of peek from behind. Now that pattern paper on the right has these kind of bokeh look, so I'm taking my white gloss spray and kind of adding some white splotches up top, and then I'll kind of repeat the process down at the bottom just so they kind of match that top left and that bottom right. I'm going to clean this up right quick. That gloss spray really dries quickly, so if I don't clean it up, it'll dry on my glass mat. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to start kind of layering these pieces down. Now I've pulled several either scraps of paper or pattern paper that I cut to kind of the dimensions that I thought that I would use. And then between the tearing and the distressing with ink, I'm going to be using that sponge, that toffee. You can see here I'm just kind of cleaning up my sponge. A lot of times if you use an old sponge, then it kind of gets flakes all over your project. Well, which then in turn can leave ink residue. So I just kind of like to cut off that. So these little strips, I'm just kind of measuring. Again, I'm tearing everything. The majority of everything I will ink up, but some I will not. And so while I'm doing that, this is an excellent time to remind you that if you are liking what you are seeing, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Feel free to share with your friends. And if you aren't already a subscriber, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and sign up for notifications so you won't miss another crafty video. So I really want this tree pattern paper. So I'm going to tear it. I'm going to tear it twice. And it really doesn't matter if it has a straight edge because it's going to be hidden by my photos. So I'm just going to trim off the edges. This will not get any sort of ink, and I think that it's okay. I am done with that focal piece. I'm going to go ahead and adhere it down onto my layout, kind of toward the top, because at the bottom I am going to put some zip strips and some other things. I'm going to go ahead and get my photos adhered down and then work on that bottom piece. Now I've got some zip strips. One has these arrows on it, so I'm trimming some pieces, and then it has some foliage and then these little suns. So I'm just kind of eyeballing it and cutting it where I think I want it. And then the chipboard pieces have this row of trees, so I thought it was real fitting. So I'm just going to cut that there, and that's going to kind of go on top of the zip strips. Now this has some little pieces, some little leaf pieces and a tag I might use, and then I'm going to pull out the other embellishments as well and take some things off of there that I think I might use. Some I use, some I end up not using, but it's always handy to just have them out on your table so you can tell whether you want to use them or not. So if you like inspiration, I would like to remind you that the creative design team actually has a sketchbook. Sketchbooks are a whole lot like scraplifting your favorite artist or your crafty friends, in that it gives you a starting off point. I'll leave that link down below if you want to go check it out and get your copy. I'm going to add some 3D foam tape to the bottom of this chipboard piece, lay it on top of there, ink it with some toffee ink just to kind of stay consistent with all the other pieces. And then I am going to look at those arrows. I'm going to get this adhered down and then take a look at the arrows like I said. Now there are arrows. I cut 2 strips. I'm really liking the arrows pointing back toward me and my husband, so I'm going to put some 3D foam tape on those. And then I'll decide where the other arrows go later. So as far as that little spot up over the photo of our kids, I am going to create a wood grain, and I am using the little foam insert that comes with our stamps. Now this is a 4x4 piece of toffee. I want the true color to show, so I'm putting it down onto that little foam insert. And then you want to use a stylus. So there's this little skinny one, there's this one, or there are these little shapers that I have, and there is one that is the perfect size. So I'm going to pull it out of the bag. I do have a link for these. I'll leave linked down below. And you just want to start making a circle to kind of look like a ring of wood. What I love about this technique is it does not have to be perfect. Much like all wood rings, you're just going to kind of go naturally. Sometimes I'm hitting like little spots in that little foam insert, and it's making it kind of jog off to the right or the left a little bit. But you can see that raised edge. And then I am going to take some sandpaper, and because Close to My Heart's cardstock has a white core, I'm going to sand this little pattern, and you can see that white core pop. I just absolutely love that about our cardstock. So I'm going to continue to sand this and watch that pop. It's kind of like watching heat embossing, if you will. So I'm just going to sand that. You want to make sure that you are on a surface that can be scratched in case that sandpaper gets on your surface. But I'm trying to keep it up off my glass board. And then I just take a dollar lint roller. You guys have probably seen me use this before, just to pick up all of that dust from the sanding. And then you can also use that on your work surface as well. So I'm going to get that cleaned up, and then I'm going to take my scissors and just start cutting around. Now, it does not have to be a perfect circle. Again, much like organic wood pieces, they are not perfect. And then I'm going to take my toffee ink and just kind of darken up the edge, make it look like bark, if you will. And then again, just using that sponge to do that. And then I'm going to kind of look and see where I want to put this. Now, I definitely know that I'll be cutting it. I just don't know which part I want to show. So I'm going to kind of use my photo as a guide, and I think I've got it. So I'm just going to kind of cut that off and then just kind of place that behind there, and then start looking at the rest of my embellishments, specifically my title. So there is this little C embellishment. I am going to back with some toffee ink just to kind of make it pop, because I know it's going to be over existing pattern paper. And then I'm going to pull out that stamp set, and there is a word that says nature. So I'm going to ink that up in mocha ink and just use that wood grain as a little landing spot for that. And then there is this stamp that says slowing down. Let me check. Slowing down has its perks. And again, I've inked that up in that mocha ink, and then I am just cutting that out with my precision or my micro tip scissors. And it's going to go down by those arrows with some 3D foam tape on the back. I just love that pop of mocha. It's really dark and really pretty. And I'm going to make this C a tag. So I've punched a hole in that. I'm going to go ahead and get some liquid glue on the back of that little wood piece, get that adhered down, and then start working on the rest of my title. So I'm going to add some 3D foam tape to the back of that C, and then just take some jute from my stash and just tie a simple knot through the hole just to kind of make it look like a tag. And again, playing on the natural aspect of this layout. So that jute is going to help, and that's going to kind of go off to the left of nature. And then I am going to add some little other embellishments. So I like that pine tree at the bottom, and then again 3D foam tape on that little sentiment. And then these little leaf pieces, I'm going to add some liquid adhesive. I am putting this pine, this dark green one, up at the top. So it kind of creates a left to right, top to bottom kind of diagonal. And then I also have that visual triangle with those 3 pieces of the paper board. I am also going to add some little glue dots to kind of adhere the tails from that tag down. This is something that I love to do. If you have the micro glue dots, you can also use a liquid adhesive to do this. But basically, you are telling that little those little tails where to go. I do end up adding just a little bitty piece behind that tree. Again, where you have one, you might want to add another one. And then just kind of add some white gel pen to those dark green pieces. I do end up adding little knots in the end of those tags from the C. So even though my chipboard pieces had the word go, it was a little bit too big. So I pulled out the wood grain die cut pieces, and I am going to ink these up in toffee. Now I thought that this would do the trick, but I end up just kind of not liking it. I'm going to play with it for a little bit, but in real time, it just didn't pop enough for me. I tried to put it over to the left. I tried to put it on top. I tried it everywhere, and you just really, there's so much busyness up there that I thought that they just needed to be a little bit darker. So now I'm going to pull out my mocha ink and just turn those over onto my pad and use my bone folder to get that mocha ink really good and inked up onto those wood grain. And then I'm going to add just liquid adhesive to the back of those and use my tweezers to kind of put them where they want to go. Now I am going to put them right by that paper tear and let them hang off the edge. I thought by hanging off the edge you could kind of see them a little bit more. And then I'm going to add some more of those arrows. So remember, I cut 2 of those pieces. I used one down at the bottom under our kids' photos, and then I definitely wanted to use some at the top. Now the arrows under the kids are going to the left, so I thought that these arrows that I'm using up at the top, it would be nice if they go to the right. And even though you really don't want arrows just kind of hanging out because it doesn't give your eye somewhere to be anchored, I think that in this instance, or I'm hoping, that it just kind of helps with the layout and the title. Here are some still shots of my layout and then some close-ups of all those little pieces. Now remember that I will leave everything that I used linked down below, as well as a link to the Stretch the Sketch people that are playing along in celebration of our 5-year anniversary. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching. If you aren't already a subscriber, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and sign up for notifications so you'll be alerted the next time I post a crafty video. Thanks and have a wonderful week.